My poster was out, this one I'm telling you, you know, for a moment I was like, why would we be talking about exes as toxic? I mean, ex and a fakwa ex, like over and done with him or her. But when we put up this poster, I just realized that actually a majority of us are struggling with that thing. That you know what, there's this just one ex, or maybe the immediate one, that is not giving you peace at all. You know, like this is now getting toxic. Toxic either in a good way, because then you're in this relationship and you're trying to make it work. But ako mahali hapo keeps reminding you of how he misses you, keeps reminding you of how, you know, she just cannot forget the good times and all that. She keeps telling you that, you know, she wouldn't mind having you back. And so while it could be a good thing that she is telling you, it is somehow messing you up. I hope I get this right, or I hope I got this right when my producer decides that we're talking about toxic exes. To me, I was like, sini ex. Kwa nini tunamuongelelea hapa? So I just don't know what your experience is. I'd love for you to probably tell us your experience, or what it is that you're going through with this ex, and how in a huge way it is affecting the relationship that you have as at now. So it's all about toxic exes and how we need to deal with them and get them off and make them exes as they're supposed to be. I don't know whether you cut communication, whether it's a good thing or it's not a good thing, because nowadays there's business. Maybe he's your ex or she is your ex and you had set up businesses together, and so we say we're not going to do with matters relationship, but we're going to make sure that our businesses run right. You as the other party who comes into this relationship, are you comfortable with that? Karibu sana. And as always, we have the doctors on board, the Kimanis, Dr. Jane and Dr. Julius, as they help us decipher on this. I don't know whether they have access at all. Are we discussing that? No, we're not going to reveal that.
It is, you can ask questions, but I will say one thing. Of course, everybody, for me, I think I've had relationship before.
Yeah, right.
But they've not been in an interference, because when we asked, when they ended, there was nothing like continuity.
That's where we miss it. That's the reason why we're talking about toxic.
My ex died.
May his soul rest in eternal peace.
So
and now there's nothing to deal with. There's no pressure on that one. Here we are. You know why we're talking about toxic exes today? I guess it's because when we're saying it's over, we never say it's over. So should it be a question of, you know, dealing with toxic exes, or we should say tumeacha your relationship imeisha?
You know, when we look at today, I was deeply thinking about that topic, and I thought, nowadays we're having very toxic exes, because I think a few years ago, because of the exposure in the media, it's bringing a lot of shame to some partners. And we're reading a lot of things in the newspapers, because for some of them, they had invested heavily in their relationship. They're so invested in that relationship. When suddenly one partner or the lady says, you know, I'm done with you, I'm moving on, I'm going to see what life has for me ahead of them, they think also about the investment they've invested in this lady. We've had cases of men who say, you know, I educated her from through college. She had promised to marry me. She's gone to college. She's met somebody. And so I think the wounds are very deep, because number one, of the financial investment, number two, the time investment, number three, the hope investment, and the expectations investment. So depending on how deeply any investment played a role in any relationship, it determines the counter reaction of the breakup. And also determined by who was the first person who pioneered the breakup. Because if the investor is the one who pioneered the breakup, then he doesn't have much to bother about. But if the invested on is the one who pioneered the breakup,
there's a problem.
So the other one will get very wounded, and that's why you find fights, you found very terrible cases, perhaps people being wounded, attempted murder. And I think nowadays it's getting terrible.
It is getting terrible. And by the way, crimes of passion, 3/4 of the reported cases that I have dealt with, I have spoken about while on air, are those ones of exes. You know, like it was a love triangle. Before you know it, that you know, you hear that they were trying to like just quit, but somehow it was not. The fresh one that was somewhere in, I don't know, I think Kiambu, where this lady was coming to the rescue of this man. You know, like, yes, they have cut this relationship, but you know, when you get an accident, the first person to call, when you're getting a situation, the first person to call is that ex of yours. You know, ambia nimepatikana na kakitu hapa, kindly come through for me. And before you know it, one of them is dead, or both of them are dead.
No, one thing that and that's why we say that one of the most important things is to, when you disconnect with your ex, you have to make all efforts to disconnect completely.
It's not easy.
It is not easy, but we are saying now that, you see, like what you're talking about, an ex calling you to come and bail them out.
Yes.
That means there is still a connection. And unfortunately, some people don't realize it could be a trap to their death. Okay. So I think when you're done with someone, it is good to look at the reasons why the relationship went to an end. Because before they are toxic exes, they must have been toxic in the relationship.
Okay.
And you have seen that this thing, like I think was it yesterday, I saw a message that was written, just somebody asking for help. And the person is saying literally, I had this relationship with a guy, and they have been together for 3 years, they have a child, but the guy was extremely violent. I mean, you hear somebody akiandika kichapo cha umbwa. A lady is saying likuwa nachapa kichapo cha umbwa. Lakini after 3 years, the guy is coming back and he's saying, I'm nice or whatever. And she's already softening. And I'm like, probably what you're saying, this guy could be looking and saying, I have lost this opportunity, this girl has gone, so only way I can do is to trap her back and bring her back to the relationship so that I can finalize with her. So I would say, for anybody who has a toxic ex, it is good to realize that your life is more important than anything. And if that person used to hurt you, because you need to look at some of the indicators of toxicity. There are those things that you look, you're always in constant stress. If this person is going somewhere, they never tell you. So you have to find out every time, where are you? You find there is lies going on in a relationship. And now you think that person, because you have separated for a few months or years, they will come back and become good people. I would say it is important for everyone who has an ex that are reaching out to them, ask yourself, what was my condition when I left? And is there a possibility of this person changing?
And is it there? Is it there? Let's be honest for a moment. Are there possibilities where one can say, "Sasa nimeokoka," and to be honest, I regret every move? Because you know, sometimes they go out here in search of greener pastures. They realize, ni kubaya zaidi. So sema afadhali ule wangu. And so when they come back, maybe, just maybe, they could have changed.
Now, I usually say this: if you're going to take somebody back, then let them go through if you are, for example, it was a come we stay relationship, let it now become a formalized relationship.
Okay.
Let them pay the price of going through the process of marrying you or getting married to you.
Okay.
Number 2, let the person go through proper counseling. Because if you don't go through counseling, if anger was an issue, then you will still go back to the same issues. So let there be a process of going back to that person if they are claiming that they have changed. Otherwise, if there is no counseling, if there is no due process of getting people involved in the whole thing, then I don't think it may end up working.
And you know, you get out of this relationship with wounds, real wounds. By the time you're deciding that, you know what, over and done, it's because you've both been hurt to the core.
Absolutely.
What are the possibilities that this person can come back and tell you, "Enyewe, nikubaya uko nje, I have changed," or I just realized that indeed I really love you, and here I am back.
Yeah, we've had some successful cases.
Okay.
We can't really demonize all of them and say, no, nobody can change. There are people who go outside there and with time they mature. The issue is about maturity most of the times.
Okay.
Life matures them. People are matured by life. Perhaps they went and tried to slap one and they were given a mwiko for life. Na hiyo mwiko bado mpaka wale wanaikumbuka, and they discovered that it's not every lady you try to slap. Well, I want to believe it's not necessarily by the negative. Most of them come to us for counseling, and then they tell us, you know I had a problem and I would like you to help me through this. Well, let's walk through anger management. Let's walk through this. And when we do, this person brought themselves. You discover they actually want to be better people. And after they're done, they say, you know, months down the line, I think I would like my ex also to come and have the same.
Right.
And let's see if it can work out. So yes, it does. But you'll not just walk around and tell me that now I think I'm different simply because you're mistreating me to get to somebody else, and that somebody else left you hanging. Now you want to come back to me. No. There has to be a due process, as he said. Number one, we've talked about maturity. There's the need now for counseling.
Okay.
There's also the need of fruits of repentance. Don't, because most people will go out there and say, unajua sasa nao mimi ni mtu wa nini kabisa. I'll never mistreat you again. Let's give you time, and let's see kama imeingia kabisa ama it is sipping from afar.
But why do they keep coming back? Let me ask this. And they say they're toxic. And some of them keep coming back even having not changed. And they'll just be there. They'll just be there. Is it because you catalyze that as an individual, or just what makes them keep coming back? And sometimes you are very categorical. You go to levels of, engaging authorities, and you say, keep off. 2-3 years down, keep off. It is not working. But he is just somewhere there.
You see, for most toxic people, they realize that probably you are a comfort zone. That you are the kind of person they would do anything and you'd allow it. So when they go outside there and they say there's maybe amapata mtu anamkula coffee and I realize kumbe this way I'm not entertained.
Okay.
Because they need to keep on practicing what they used to practice. If they are dishonest, they realize maybe the next person will not entertain lies from the beginning. And you see, they thrive by lies, assuming it is financial lies. They are always being bailed out. So they realize maybe the next person is not taking that nonsense. But for you, when they call you even in the late of the night when you are still an ex, and they say, by the way, nimezimiwa sijui gari imezima mataa, I need to buy a torch. And they use some funny lies. Ati wamebakisha tu pahali Nduthi, one motorbike away from the place they are going. They were delivering a deal. And so they find that you are able to entertain that lie. So they want to come back to that situation. Probably they thrive in anger. And when they threw a tantrum, they were able to get what they used to get. So they realize in another location, they're not getting what they're getting. So you become the comfort zone, and they keep on looking for that comfort because you are able to entertain their character and entertain what they do. And so they find it easy being with you. And they can tell you anything. When they have suffered outside there, they can tell you, you are the best. And actually what they are saying, you are the best person to be lied to. You are the best person to be slapped. That's why I just want to come back to you so that I can be able to slap you twice. I can be able to lie to you once again. I can be able to get some money from you. And that is it. So I usually say, for the person who has a toxic ex and they are feeling like they need to go back, you also need to ask yourself, what is it that you have, or what is it that you are not, that you are trying to get from the other person? Because probably he used to say very nice things at that particular moment, but when he fights you, you forget all that. So he keeps on using the same tagline. Most of the times you'll find maybe they use words that are they know you need them. Maybe they can talk about your beauty. They have never found anybody as beautiful as you. But every other thing is bad. But when you are touched on your beauty, because that's where probably somebody told you one time ago that you are ugly, and so you like them because they keep on feeding that need that you have. So one person, you need also to ask yourself, that's why I say, you need to ask yourself, what is it that I'm looking for? What is it that I'm being fed by this ex that I need to run away from?
Okay, and so when Jeremiah says, Linda, to me, all exes are toxic. There's not anything to say that, and that's why you should keep off them 101%. Make us understand this, Daktari. There's one who, you just amicably say, it's over, we can't do this, and they behave and they respect that. You'll still be in contact, constant communication. They do not bother your life. You just meet for over coffee, and that's just it. Sometimes, if you're in need, they would come through for you. How safe is this?
It's very unsafe, because if you're still looking for this person when you've got some need, he's actually still in your life.
Okay.
If this is a guy you can go and have coffee with because you're lonely, he's still in your life. And you know, for men, they interpret such gestures very differently, very differently from us. They take it that you are still interested, and that's why now they'll become very aggressive when you tell them, you know, now I found somebody else. They'll get very aggressive because you are taking their space. And they thought all along you're playing easy to get. You know, I'm still around for you. And that's why I tell ladies and gentlemen at the same token, if you have parted ways, let it be clear. Let it be, you know, a valley. Let there be a valley. I don't need your help. How many billions of people are there in the world?
Very many.
Very many. If you need to get help from somebody, you can get it elsewhere. If you need to have coffee with somebody, first of all, have coffee with yourself, so that you can heal and so that you can begin to love yourself in your own company. So if you've got nobody to take you out. Enjoy the dinner, take an Uber home and say thank you. You don't need to keep tagging him, and especially following on Facebook. Akona nani, amepost nani, status. You're a slave to everything this person does because you're not yet over with them. It's important to blacklist them for a while.
Okay.
Blacklist. If you say it is done, and both of you, of course, had very good reasons to say it is done, and you agree it is done, the next thing should be blacklist. That is how serious it
Even
gets.
when the baby is involved?
No, when a baby is involved, you know, there are different parameters that you follow. Because the partner may want to see the baby and so also support the baby. That's not a different parameter. But when you know the baby is not involved, there is nobody involved, blacklist. If there is a baby, let the conversation be around the baby. And by the way, put it in line very well before you even leave and break up completely, that this is how you're going to handle the baby. At times, you may need to even involve a lawyer because this baby will need child support in the future. And at times, it may be easy for some say, I'm going to pay the full medical cover, I'm going to pay the school, whatever, for the cover for education. Now, you live your life. The cover will always be paid per month. Withdraw it to a need bees.
We'll hold it right there. And sometimes, Dr. you know, the baby is there, and there's that amicable way of making sure that at least the other partner is able to get to see the baby, meet the baby. But sometimes they get to levels where I don't know whether this then becomes, you know, a toxic ex, because now that you freely allow them to be with the baby because they're the dad, that probably twist the mind of the baby based on, you know, how they view you, maybe because they've not healed just yet, maybe because they feel like you're moving on pretty fast than them, maybe because they are moving on and now they want to introduce these other partners into the lives of the baby. How toxic can that be? Or how then do you handle this to avoid scenarios where, you know, the baby will be corrupt, or the baby's mind would be corrupt, and that automatically then means it corrupts the two of you?
True. Of course, what you're saying is very true. There are people, they wait for the moment. For example, when the child goes back to them, that's when they are fed all the lines concerning, for example, it could be their father or their mother. But what I say, if you go to a certain restaurant and you eat good food, and you come out and you go to another one and they keep on talking about the bad food of the other restaurant, what happens is that eventually, when you go back to that restaurant that you ate good food, you realize that the food is good there. So if you are a parent and maybe your ex is talking badly about you, you keep on doing the good to this child, because children grow up and they realize these were lies. My mom used to lie to me, or my dad used to lie to me. So you keep on doing your best to that child. Don't play into the trap of trying to bash back. I usually say, any person who feeds negativity to a child is not destroying the man or the woman they left. They're actually destroying that child. So if you keep on talking to that child and telling that child your father was a horrible man, he used to be an adulterer and all that, you're not destroying that man's life. He may be affected for a while, but that child will be affected by those things. And that's why you find, I had a case where a certain young man was saying, the reason why I hate women, actually I want to be in a relationship with a man. This is a boy who wants to be in a relationship with a man because of what the father kept on talking about the mother. And so whose life now, the boy has come for counseling because he needs to get out. The father has brought the boy, so he needs to get out of that relationship, gay relationship. But who destroyed that boy? It was the father. who planted seeds. So if you are a mother or if you are a father and you're feeding that child negativity, it will hit back to you, because that child may either run to drugs, may either run into immorality or into wrong relationships. So you just got to, if you are the person keeping the child, keep on doing the good.
Okay.
And it will be okay. A time will come when that child will look at you and say, Dad, I knew you are a good man. Or Mom, I knew you are a good woman.
Wow.
Yes.
That's great. We are not winding it up at that. It sounds like, a proper wrap-up of the same. But yes, we're still having this conversation. Keep dropping the comments. #Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela, TV47. Ask the experts. They'll be here to answer some of your questions. And I know we are bound in this. We don't know how to get ourselves off this hook. But it is possible. And that's exactly what we'll learn after this break. Welcome back to the broadcast. Still with us, Dr. Jane Kimani and Dr. Julius Kimani, as we speak of toxic exes. And as one of us would argue, all exes are toxic. But to what point then do you know that now this is an ex who's toxic? Because reality is, or at least from what we see on social media, there are others that pretend like, yes, he's my ex, but we're good, we're friends, and it's working. And so I'd want to assume that it is actually working for others. Maybe that's the reason why people tend to feel like, you still can be in good terms with your ex, and there's no problem, and you all respect that. You actually even get to dinner moments where they will come with their partner, and you will come with yours, and it is okay.
True, that's at the moment of healing. The moment where both of you have completely healed and you have agreed, and especially if a baby was involved. At times you find when I know of several couples who have gone through extreme pain, they've separated amicably. Yes, of course, there was a lot of pain at that moment, but both of them have gone their own ways and they have agreed that it is over.
Okay.
They've agreed actually it is over and it is done with, and so they go chat their way forward. And one lady asked her, why do you do this? She told me, why? Because of my children. I would never want them to miss out on their daddy. And at times we're having some functions, and because they used to see their dad, I still want their dad to be around. And he has moved on, she has moved on. And you find there is that level of maturity, but which we can give at 20%. If not 5%. Because most people are still very jealous. I did that girl, how is she? And you're busy asking everybody, I did the new one, how is she? Because you want to be told she's worse than you. Okay. There's no other word you want to hear.
That's true.
You want to be told the way she's walking, she was walking like a duck. And now she looks good.
Oh no.
And she's carried herself all together.
Jealousy.
Oh, you will not be able to conclude that dinner. You will cause a tantrum.
Right. Same
case with the man. He discovers the other man is altogether a gentleman and he was altogether a hoodlum. He will start feeling like, what? Hey, this is my wife. Oh, she has to have the seat moved at Nakali Alafu. Right. Oh, so it breeds a lot of jealousy. And that's why I tell people, as much as yes, mutually you're still feeling like, okay, we can have this mutual respect, keep still the distance apart. Because it will breed in jealousy, because somehow one time or the other, there is a time you used to be together, there is a time you are each other's everything. Seeing somebody else and comparing yourself in their eyes now breeds in jealousy, hate, anger, which now we are all going to read on Instagram, Facebook, or on your status the following 2 days.
Wow.
So don't put yourself in fire.
And then speaking of which, we were just talking about the exes of today and the exes of back then. And in this life of social media, like you rightfully put it, they will go there on social media and say, over and done, blah, blah, blah. They throw their tantrums there. You get to see them. On social media and all that. And people will tell you they genuinely have the fear of keeping these people as exes, of cutting contact in totality because of a couple of things. For instance, someone like me who works on TV, and like there's this ex who's always lingering around. There's always fear of the unknown. You don't want them to taint your image. You don't want them to go on social media and start, propagating things that are not you. And therefore, you just have to be warm to them somehow. You just have to hang around. You don't want them to do I don't know what and everything. So it becomes really, really hard for them to be exes in totality.
True. Now, you see one thing, I agree with you. You know, at the end of the day, life is about managing it. And you may have a situation where you know, because of the life that you lead, you need to manage your ex because they can throw anything at you. Just like when you're dealing with an ugly animal or a wild animal, you may have that animal around you forever. You live near a forest and you have that animal. So you'll have to know how to manage your life. Either you walk during the day or you do during the day and you're careful about what you do. So there are situations that will call you to know how your ex is and how to handle them. But a time comes where you cannot be a prisoner for life. One thing I usually say, it takes two to fight. It takes two to fight. So the moment you exit from the boxing ring, that person will look silly, throwing up their punches to the air.
Okay.
So there are people who will go to the Instagram and keep on abusing their exes, throwing names and whatever. If you react to it, you have fueled the fire, because people love following up stories of where there is chaos. They want to see the back and forth. But if there is only one person who is throwing the words and you're not responding, that person will reach a place where they get tired and they cannot do anything. So I usually say, when you have an ex who is closely monitoring you, and probably they may do something that is negative, people can be able to make a difference. They can be able to tell a mad person from the person who is normal.
Okay.
So when you see everybody following you, and even in the street, if you see somebody who is throwing stones to one person and the other person is not throwing stone, people will tend to restrain the person who is throwing the stones, or protect the person who the stones are being thrown at. So that's why we say, if you have already exited the ex life and the ex is trying to do things that are not conducive for you, one of the best important thing is don't get involved, especially in the social conflicts in the social media.
Okay.
Ignore, because the moment you ignore, if you don't put fire, eventually that fire will also go out.
All right. And speaking, sometimes you are that ex who is toxic to yourself. Toxic in the sense that, you know what, you genuinely still are missing this person. You really would want for this to end because maybe it was not all rosy in there, but you just cannot help it, and you have to keep calling them. You have to keep, peeping on their social media platform to see whether they're moving on or not. How do you get yourself out of this hook again?
Number one, time. I tell people it takes time. Never lie to yourself that you've been left, and so tomorrow your heart will be packed and leaves. No, it takes time. And it's important for somebody to agree. I've been peeping through the social media spaces. I've been trying to ask friends, close friends. It is normal. Don't bash yourself. A time and a moment will come when you'll not need to do that. If you do not do that, and you're the one who was left actually with a wound because you wanted the relationship to continue, you need to be just very genuine with yourself. Tell yourself, you know what, I've been wounded, I've been left. However, I still love this person.
Right.
And not only do I still love this person, I wish we would be back. So after all is said and done, life has a way. And time has a way of erasing back past memories. Yeah, there are wounds that are healed by time. Another thing, involve yourself with different things. Don't involve yourself with the things you used to involve with together. Perhaps you used to go for swimming at a certain joint, change that joint. Don't go there. You used to go for lunch at a certain joint, just change that. Number 3, change friends. If you had common friends, we'll keep talking about him even when you thought you're getting healed. And perhaps in the middle of the conversation, they say, nani amenunua gari poa. You're thinking, and all those things, you just have a shift of friends. If you had common friends, leave the common pool for now. Go and develop new friends. And if you're living in the same house, perhaps, change the color of the house. Just paint it a different color. Change the arrangement of the seats. If you had a favorite cup, donate it. A favorite plate, donate it. Remove the things that hold you back to the past. Change the scenario.
Sometimes the environment is not so friendly for you to realize this changes like almost immediately. Sometimes you'd want to move from the house to a different house, financial constraints. Sometimes you really want to change that color, financial constraints. Sometimes you really want to cut, these friends, but they're just next to neighbors and all that.
Let me tell you, Linda, everything is here.
The mind.
You first overcome in the mind. If you overcome in the mind and you purpose, these are the changes I'll do in my life. You can start by painting one wall where you place the TV. And if both of you used to watch at that wall and it was blue while watching the telly, suddenly it is yellow or pink. It is very girlish.
Okay.
Or if it is a man who has been left, he has made it navy blue, moonlight blue. Who it's already a different world for him. For as long as he's watching that TV, and it is up to the mind to decide, I'm going to do this. Sometimes you don't even need money to do anything. If the seats were facing this direction, let them change and face a different direction.
Okay.
If there are things that are a close memory, perhaps used to love this vase of flowers, and she used to love this vase of flowers, and she'd comment about it every evening, just donate it. There are changes actually we tell people, and they work. Just by the time you're even able to change your friends and everything, overcome it inside of you. That I'm getting to this house and I'm alone. And speak to yourself. In psychology, we say you believe 99% of what you hear yourself talking to you about yourself. More than what we will tell you. So keep telling yourself, it is over, I'm going to have a brighter future. Look at the future positively. And there's what we call the pedestal love. The pedestal love is where you place somebody up there and you feel like you're down here and you live because they're alive. So it is like he is like a god or she is a demigod. Okay. So you're down here and akopale Jew. Now those are the relationships that are very, very hard to break. Yeah. Because if you're the person who was down here, you'll always feel like there's somebody I'm missing. They provided me comfort. They provided for me the right words. They supported me when I was down. There would be these.
And sometimes they're even extremely toxic and you know it, but you still can't get...
Yeah, because you're looking at the good that they're doing, and so you become an enabler. You enable them to remain that toxic. And at times friends will even tell you, are you sure this relationship is taking you the right direction? But because this person beat your emotions down, they first deal with your emotions. They beat you down to feel like you are nothing without me. And when you feel like this person makes me to become, then they treat you, and this is very, very, very toxic. We have even martyr love, where you go to die your everything for this person. This person tells you you're going to stop talking to your friends. I don't want to see you with so and so, and you're like, okay. Because you want to please that person. It's called a martyr kind of a love. And then they tell you, I don't want you dressing like this, okay. I don't want you working, I want you at home, I'll supply everything you need, okay. I don't want this, and you are only an okay person, because that is now extremely 1,000% times toxic. And in this martyr relationship, you die to everything, but then one day you have a wake-up call and you realize this is actually not me. I was not headed this direction. 2 years down the line, I'm a worse off person than before I met this person. And you want to leave. Now, the other person was acting like a god to killing you, and you worship them. At that point, it becomes very toxic. They are looking for the person to adore their steps.
Well, how do you get your antennas up there? Normally you'd say, okay, well, if you've experienced a breakup for the first time, maybe the next one will be much easier to deal with, because now you have adjusted somehow. But whatever Daktari raises, very pertinent points. Sometimes we overlook and we get comfortable in them, or we just stay there and we always are giving reasons why we're still there. We still are trying to justify things until it is too late. Too late to a point where there's suicide. Too late to a point where murder cases arise, too late to a point where it affects the people around us, too late to a point where you cannot do anything for yourself in life. You just become a useless person because, well, you probably never you never flew abroad, just because you felt like you can't go abroad and leave this person in Kenya. And probably that's where your destiny was. That's where, things would have opened up for you.
No, you see, I will always say there is an instinct that will always tell you this thing is not the right thing. And most people don't tend to follow that instinct. You see, something has happened once, twice, thrice, and you keep on ignoring those signs that are there. Just like the way sometimes you unasikia kahoma kanaanza kidogo, then you ignoring it will become a bigger issue.
Yeah.
So there is that instinct that will tell you this thing is not the right thing. Secondly, of course there are issues. You can see lack of communication. Already the ex is so, I mean, you could see the communications were never going anywhere. So many people are staying in marriages and you have not talked for 1 year. Talked for 2 years. You're just entertaining. You're waiting to get one extra child that will probably now bind you even more and more. You find that lack of communications will tell you a lot. There's also that lack of respect. You find every time this person does not respect you, does not work at respecting you at all. You know, there are those things that you can say, every day there are challenges. Even in organizations, you have challenges that you have to work at. But when you see a constant, one person is the only one who is demanding that you change. You know, there are people who come with a list of things that you need to change.
Yeah.
So them, they don't want to change, but they want you to change. That is already an indication that this relationship may not go the right way. Somebody who just wants to have their way. And if they don't have their way, they can throw a tantrum. And you see, a tantrum is not necessarily anger or anything. If they could decide to go quiet for even a long period of time, they may decide, I'm not eating your food for the next 1 month. Or they are not giving you money. You know, there are people who withdraw their money. You realize that. When you discover that you have lost friends, there is one case I had where the man was telling me, I have done away with all my friends because my wife keeps on saying, this one is not good. Then he picks another one, he says, even this one is not good. So he has kept on dropping friends and friends and friends. Now he was saying, I'm feeling like an island. Now that's something that you need to realize. When somebody keeps on pointing at your friend, there is never a good friend that you have around. Then you need to realize something could be going on. Lies. You find the person, you have come to a level where now you have become a liar. Because if you talk the truth to your partner, probably they will not like it. So you have to lie about where you're going. You have to lie about the people where you are hanging out with. You have to lie about anything that you are doing. Then you need to realize that person, that relationship become toxic. Because if you cannot be truthful, there is a major problem.
That's true.
Then of course there is that issue of whereby you find maybe you are having to spend money and hide your expenditure because of you don't want your ex or the person you are with to know. That means there's something that is not okay in that relationship. Some of these are indicators, and if they are not being worked out and your partner is not agreed to work them out, then you need to realize this could be something that may lead to something worse off.
All right, so managing the boundaries and the behavior, and you know, it's one thing to say we have broken up. That is in itself is a problem. And then now getting to that next level where we say I have to cut contact in totality. And so you're suffering, you're crying, you're having, you know, those moments where you hide yourself in a cocoon, you probably close the curtains and you're in that room. And, you know, I mean, it's not this is not the only thing that you're going through. There are a couple of other things that you have to deal with, especially those ones who are left with the kids. You have to struggle with explaining to them that it's all right, understand this is happening because of this and this. How do you manage this?
Now, I tell people, never think you're too strong on your own. When it gets to such a point, ensure you've got social support. Ensure you constantly have social support. Social support is important. It could be your sisters, it could be a friend, and ensure if you're a lady, there is no gentleman who is a social support. Because at times they go to bleed on them, and when they go to bleed on them, some of the men relate that. They relate that as she's now interested in me. And you realize you get into another relationship that you are not ready for. You are just bleeding on this person, and then it ended up being like you are now leaning on this person. So it's important to keep away the opposite sex. If it is men, stop leaning on a woman. Get a people, there could be 2, 3, or even one, who can be a social support. A person you can talk to and you feel like nobody else can listen to. A person who perhaps in the past you've been there for them, and so you've understood them, they understand you, and it's easy for you now to open up and tell them, let's just go for a walk. I feel like I can bash the wall and they will understand and have time for you. So do not sit around alone, because it may easily lead to depression. Yeah. Easily. And a lot of people are going through stress, depression, which now in turn affects their productivity at work. In turn, losing their job, making the situation even more, all the more complex. So I tell people, do this one thing, have somebody you know can support you through the journey. If there is nobody who can support you, get a counselor. If not that, if you're a religious person, go to your religious leader. Okay. Yeah. If not that, go to Nyumba Kumi Initiative and look for a mama who is mature among them all. You know, there is always somebody who can listen, and that's what I would want people to know. There is always a listener. It's just that you never look for them. And at that point, you're very blank. So before you initiate the fact that it is over, know that so-and-so is usually my support. And if it came to you from Facebook, and suddenly this person posts a photo of himself and a beautiful girl, and that's the way to tell you it is over, rush to the people who can listen and not be a broadcasting station about your life. Okay,
there you go. That's a huge mistake that we always do.
Yeah.
It has gotten to a point where, you know, in totality, it's okay, you have agreed that it has to end. This person still is there and you have to co-parent with them. But there's that acknowledgement somehow that he's toxic, because every time he's probably around you you know, and the kids, and there's always something. You probably are just going to quarrel, or maybe, you know, you just have to struggle on the money aspect and so much more. But again, he is not out of the life of the children, or she is not out of the life of the children. How do you co-parent with such a person?
You know, Linda, I say most of us live lives with sometimes unnecessary noise within our neighborhoods. People that sometimes are very toxic, even if they are not in our relationships. But we have managed to block them, to switch off and ignore what they do. Now, if you have an ex who you have to co-parent with, there are moments where you just have to totally ignore some of the things. And there is nothing as powerful as ignorance, because if that person is doing intentionally to hurt you, they realize it is not working. So you have to ignore them. Number two, choose to look at the positive things about that person. They could be a horrible communicator, maybe they call you names, but they are such a good father or a mother to that child. Look at that positivity and let it linger in your mind and play it in your mind until it becomes the only thing that you focus on. Because if you keep on focusing on the negative, it will keep on drawing your energy and everything. Number three, probably after the child has gone and maybe they have come back to you and they have that negativity, I think it is also good to remember, as I said, don't focus on talking to the child about your ex. And realize that even if you have, for example, if you're a man and maybe you separated with your wife, and now you have another lady, remember that your ex will always be there because of the child. So let the person who is there also respect the other lady, because it will be easy for both of you. Otherwise, if you don't show respect, even if he doesn't show you respect, you do your part, because what you keep on showing, eventually you begin to harvest. That person will begin to see themselves as a wrong way, because every time the child goes back to them, they hear positive. Dada alisema unakuwaga mzuri, nikikuja na kujaga nimeshukwa nywele vizuri, na nasema nimenona kidogo. That person will begin to wonder, the way I feed this kid when she's going back, and now when she comes back, she comes with good the positive things the father was saying or the mother was saying. That person will begin to change. So begin to sow seeds, good seeds, and you'll begin to enjoy those harvests.
Wow, that's amazing. So one Kevin Wafula is asking, what gets these people to being toxic? Is it their upbringing? Is it childhood? Is it, you know, past experiences? Just why would they be toxic? You know, sometimes this toxicity actually hurts them.
Yeah. By the way, it is a blend of them all. Some of them, it's their bringing and the wounds in their childhood while growing. Some of them were bullied. And so growing up, they looked for an opportunity where they'll not be bullied again in case they're in a relationship. Because some, especially young boys, while growing, they try to fight for this pecking order. You know me, I'm the boss. And so perhaps he was not. He was down the line. And he constantly kept feeling like, when I get somebody in my life, lazima ajue I'm the man. And so they get into it with the wrong mentality. Another reason could be because of a past relationship. Possibly in the previous relationship, he was so manhandled. Now he has decided, I'm going to manhandle you so that you don't mess with me anymore. He gave his all and it was taken for a ride. Or vice versa. So no, they're very protective of themselves. Most of these things happen because somebody is being protective of themselves. And now they're overprotective of themselves in a way that if they see an attack, they co-attack they co-attack by the way. They don't even defend themselves. They co-attack before you attack. And anything to them is an attack. And they've never had somebody who has told them the brutal truth. Because many times you're not brutally honest with people. We manage them, we live with them as our friends, as our brothers and as our sisters. But we never point to them the bad things in their lives that they need to work on. Why? Because we're all defensive. If somebody kept telling you, Linda, you're this, or Jane, you're this, you know, we draw a defense. And so we are never genuine to each other. If we were genuine to just our friends, and just to the ladies, you know, you tell, so I wish you'd change this a bit. You'd become a better person. If you are our brothers and our sisters' keeper, then it would be easy to deal with toxicity. Because we all observe it and we know this person is rude, arrogant, and proud. And so then we never tell them and we manage it because it doesn't matter to you. But how I wish that would be so genuine with our cousins and that they're genuine to us with our friends and our neighbors, but not neighbors. You may have issues with your neighbor. And you tell them, you know what? I wish you'd work on this area. Just tell me what I need to work on. And when you do that, this person will be able to see who they are in the eyes of other people. Because most people don't know who they are in the eyes. We are our own image. And you know, somebody said, if you've got yourself for a mentor, then you've got a fool for a leader. You can never be your own mentor because a mentor will always tell you this is not the way. Here you're heading nowhere. Go back, work on this attitude. That attitude will not take you anywhere. We are mentors to so many people in church and elsewhere. And at times we call out on a lady and tell them, you know what? Your attitude is so wrong. That's why you never sit still in relationships. This and this is so wrong. That's why people don't like you. Because we need to be so very honest. Because at times they say, you know, it's a spirit of rejection. It is not a spirit of rejection. You are just very rude.
All right.
And I wish people are that honest. Then we'll be able to deal with our own baggage and become better people.
Well said. As we close, Dr. Ari, and we actually need not to worry much because I am told from today onwards we get an extra hour. And so moments where we have to worry about, oh, we have not exhausted the topic, I think are done and dusted with. At least we'll be extending further, right? But for today, we close it at here, at this particular point. So your parting shots.
I will say one thing. Make sure you change. You may wait for the ex to change. They will never change. Be the person that changes for positive. Change the way you react to them. If they call you names, just change. Decide that I will not allow those words to hurt me. If they talk negatively about you, just change yourself. The best person you can do or you can change is you. Just decide to change and become a better person, and that will be good for you.
He is toxic, she is toxic. Choose not to be. That's definitely it. Thank you so much, Dr. Jane Kimani and Dr. Julius Kimani. It was good having you. I know, yes, we can talk about this some more, but all the same, I hope you have picked something that will be helpful for you. If you can, step out. This will save you, you know, a lot. That is probably something that would happen in future. Sometimes we don't envision some of these things, and sometimes we actually envision them, but we still sit still. You need not to do that. It is incumbent upon you to protect yourself. So please take that bold step. It could be painful, it could be hard to deal with, but eventually, as Dr. Jane would say, time is a factor that will bring healing. And so we take a quick break. We have Tasty Wednesday, that is today. And so from the 1st, we'll be taking this all the way to 10 a.m. Tell us what you'd want us to cover. We now have extra time. If you have this business and you think it's time that you need to speak about it, it is here, the 1 hour for you. We have this topic that you think is very crucial and probably you'd want to enlighten the public on. This is your time. Write to us, #Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KE. Let's make use of that extra hour that has been accorded to us. All this courtesy of you, because of the love that you've given to us and because you've said we need extra time. We say asante sana to the management as we keep the ball rolling. Keep it TV47, the home of untold stories. Let's cross over and get to enjoy some tips in the kitchen after this break.